Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're gonna go through, try to do this quickly. This is gonna be a review of the Django associations. I know we've kind of seen this. So I'm just gonna do the IMDb example. It's the simplest, and if you can get this one, then you can get the other ones. So, being able to do this one is the most important. So I'm gonna go over it again, even though we've like kind of partially gone over parts of it a couple times. So we'll do that, and then I'll try to be as brief as possible, and then we'll go into the lesson, which is going to be a little bit longer. So we'll look at making an entire, a full stack application using Django. Okay, so for the IMDb example, I've already forked and cloned the repo. So I can go in here into so the first thing I should do is create a virtual environment. So create it, and then I activate it. And then I'll install the requirements.txt. Which has a bunch of stuff I don't really need, but that's fine. I did try doing this. I had an issue with, I think, with IPython earlier, but we'll see. Did anyone else have that issue?
I did.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously we're trying to, this is one of the, it's an issue that you'll encounter in software development where it's like, we have something that works, so let's keep it here. But then of course, Django is now on 3.1. So we should upgrade Django, but if we upgrade Django, then we have to upgrade everything else. And so it just creates this. So managing versions and everything is, it's just part of the fun. So here we've installed everything. So now we'll go into IMDb. Okay, and we have our manage.py. So we're at the level of manage.py, so we can run all of our manage.py commands. We can take a look. So here's our models and our tests. We don't have any views because we're only doing the back end right now. Later today, we'll look at the front end part of this. So we have a bunch of tests. Okay, so let's try making sure that our database is up and running. It may not be necessary for the test, but we'll just do it. So Python manage.py, make migrations. Okay, so that my database doesn't exist. So if I want to find out where my database is, I can go into the settings file of the project. So the project, not the app, but the project has a settings file. I can go in here. There's a whole bunch of stuff, some of which we don't really need to worry about. This is kind of pre-made for us, which could be good or bad depending. But we have our MovieDB installed app. This is the app that we have installed right here. So we've added it to our installed apps list. If we go down, you can see databases. So we could use the default database, which is SQLite. But so if you don't touch the settings file, that's what it'll use by default. But we're gonna have, in this example anyway, we're gonna be using the PostgreSQL database, and the name is IMDb, but I don't have that database, so I need to create it. Okay, so now I've created that database. Let's try running make migrations. No changes detected. And then we will migrate. So all of this, all of the default Django stuff came in. So again, this is a minor issue, but in part because this project came preloaded, we don't have this. We don't have a migrations folder for the movie database. So in order to fix that, again, this is not something you need to know, but just a minor quirk. So you specify the app. It's not, it's movie DB, yes. Okay, so notice when I ran that, I gave it the specific name. Ordinarily, you don't necessarily have to do that if this were a project you're creating from scratch, but so now this migrations folder gets created. So now if I run migrate, that model that's right in here will get added to our database. So now our database should be set up. We could go test that out. And we can see at the bottom, so there's all this built-in Django stuff that we get. And then at the bottom, we have our movie DB actor. So Django takes some liberties and names things for us, but we can see that we have an actor, a movie, and a role according to our models. All right, so let's exit from there. And then, so we're doing like a test-driven development kind of thing. We're starting from the test and then we're working backwards to try to make our application. So let's run the test file. Python manage.py test. Okay, so it runs 6 tests. And as Ankur showed us yesterday, we can add a fail fast flag. So we don't have to sift through so much stuff. We could also comment out tests, but this is probably the more professional way of doing it. Okay. So we have an error. You can look, so movie is an invalid argument for this function. We could try commenting out things, for example. Let's try commenting out this role business. And it fails, but we get a different error. So of course, we haven't actually done anything with our models. We just have these classes and we need to fill them in. So it might be tempting just to start coding, but I think especially with databases, it's always a good idea, really with anything, to start by planning a little bit. So let's plan. So we have an actor and a movie and a role. So we can say that an actor can be in many movies, and a movie can have many actors. So what kind of relationship is that?
Many to many.
Yeah. So it's a many to many, and of course we can't directly represent a many to many relationship in tables. So we have to have this join table, this third table, which will join both of them. It's going to have a foreign key to both of the tables that we care about. All right. So an actor can have many roles. A movie can have many roles. An actor could have be in many movies. A movie can have many actors. So we're putting this in a role. We could call this actor movies or movie actors or something. Occasionally, there's another word that just fits, but sometimes you have to use a combination of both of the other tables. Okay, so I think we have a good idea. So we have an actor, we have a movie, and we're going to keep this very bare bones. We could add, name and release date and all kinds of other things, but we don't really care about that. We just care about the relationships. So a couple things we could do here is if we look in the documentation for Django, go to the documentation, many-to-many relationships. Notice that here, the example that we get, how many tables are here?
2?
Yeah. So something must be wrong. We should submit a PR. Someone tell Django. So what Django is doing some stuff for us under the hood here. So on article we here, so a publication can have lots of articles, and an article, can belong, you could publish it as the same article in many different publications. So this is a many-to-many relationship, and there's a few ways we could do that. We could have 3 tables explicitly, and then use a foreign key on the 2 foreign keys on the join table. Django gives us kind of a convenient shortcut with this. So models.many-to-many field. So we tell it instead of foreign key or whatever, it's a many-to-many field, and we have to connect. So the thing about, so there are a couple caveats here. One is that you should be aware of what's actually happening under the hood. There's going to be 3 tables. The other thing is that you only need to put this many-to-many field on one of the models. So you don't put it on both. And it doesn't really matter which one you put it on. You can use maybe like whatever seems sensible, but from like a code perspective, it doesn't matter.
Shouldn't it be on your join table though?
Shouldn't what be on the join table?
The many-to-many field clause?
So there is no join table. I mean, there is no join table in the Django models here. This is going to create a join table for us. Does that make sense? So this is a little confusing. So it's actually convenient, but it can make it a little confusing.
Yeah, that does.
So it's,
Was there another question?
I was just gonna say, so it's not in the actual model at all, but this creates it creates like a article publications table in the database.
Yeah.
You just can't see it.
Yes.
So would you want to do, since we have a join table, would it just be 2 foreign keys, as in like 2 one-to-many relationships, or?
We could, yeah. So so there's another trick or caveat here with the way Django handles many-to-many relationships, which is that, so there are cases where Django will just kind of give you defaults, just like when we created our database, we didn't specifically, or our tables, we didn't specifically create a table called moviedb_actor. That's nowhere in our code, right? We didn't write that. We just created a model called actor with a capital A. And then Django under the hood kind of has a standard naming convention that it follows. And so it created this name for us. So we don't really need to know about this from our, that's one of the conveniences of having an ORM, is that we don't necessarily need to know, and unless there's a problem, of course. We should know what's happening down here, but from the perspective of our Django code, we don't really need to know the specifics of what our database is called or how Django is generating the SQL or anything like that. But so when you just create this many-to-many field and you don't explicitly create a join table, Django is going to do some default naming stuff for you. So we'll take a look at that afterwards. But it's just something to be aware of. It can be confusing. So if you just need like an empty join table, like here, so annoying. So this zoom menu pops up. I don't know how to get rid of it. Anyway, so here our role table, like in this instance, it's purely a join table. It doesn't have any of its own information, really. It doesn't have like a, so we can add stuff. We can have like a character. We can have a character field, right? So role will have a character. But if you don't add any information, like the way we have it now, then, whoops. Yeah, so you can do something like this and not explicitly specify a third join table. But even if you do, it's a good idea to tell Django that this is a many-to-many relationship, because it can make things easier. So we'll take a look at that. So we know that actor and movie is going to have a many-to-many relationship. So we can put our many-to-many field on either actor or movie. Doesn't really matter. We'll just put it on movie, and we'll have fields called actors, and it will be a many-to-many field, and it's going to connect to actor. So if we didn't have these tests telling us specifically that we need this role table, we wouldn't need this class. So we can do stuff just like this. We can create a bunch of actors and create a bunch of movies, and then associate actors with movies and movies with actors, and then access everything that way. But here, we're creating a role explicitly. And that's largely just because of the way that the tests are set up. And it would depend on what we're doing as well. Okay. So if we do want to have a third join table with Django, we're going to need to do a little bit more. So here we're just saying, many files that many-to-many field actor, Django, you take care of the rest. But if we have an explicit join table that we want to use, we're going to have to do a little bit more work. So if we have a join table, we need to tell Django what our join table is. And you do that with this additional keyword parameter called through. So through, and this will take a string, and that will be our join table. So role is going to be our join table. And then another practice, which is common to both many-to-many relationships and one-to-many, like a foreign key, is to tell it specifically how you want to reference things. So we use something called a related name. Again, if you don't specify a related name, Django will use its default stuff to give you one, but it's nice to have your own. So related name equals, and then typically what we'll do is it'll be the plural. So if we want to get all the actors from, or all the movies from actors, we'll name this movies. So we'll see when we do some queries why this might be helpful. And then for the role, so we're going to need 2 foreign keys. So we're going to need an actor. Foreign key, and that will go to actor. And we can do on delete. You don't have to specify this necessarily. So cascade, that may be familiar to you. And then it's usually a good idea to specify a related name as well, and that will be roles. So the related name is generally going to be the plural of whatever class it's in. So the actors' roles. You want the actors' roles. And then movie. We'll do the same kind of stuff on delete, models.cascade. And then related name will be the same thing. Well, is there a question? Okay. So let's go ahead and try running a test. Okay, so we have an issue where we've changed our models. So what do we need to do now?
Migrate it.
Yeah. So this may be an issue for us. Let me ID. So you can look at the migrations file here, actor, movie, role. So let's see if this works. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to probably do something like, so this is
My
for,
solution to that problem was to just delete the migrations, the last migration.
yeah, so you can definitely do that, and that's usually what I do too. But so for development, that's fine. But if this were production issue, obviously you can't do that. So you can try creating a default value, try and add a non-nullable field actor to a role without a default. So let's try adding.
Can you set that to an empty string, or will that cause problems?
You should be able to set it to an empty string. So you can take a look at the migrations now. We can see that this is kind of like an intermediate thing. So we have our model, and then Django does this. It's like an intermediate thing, and Django will use this to generate SQL. We can see that we changed this. So we have a default value now. And we'll see if that actually works. Int base 10. So it looks like my default maybe will have to be a number. It's a foreign key. So I think we are going to have some problems because this is a foreign key. So I am just going to delete that. But if I were a little more handy with this, you could, had more time, we could figure it out. So I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this as well.
Maybe you could have just commented those ones out. Maybe that would work to kind of keep it, but not use it.
I hadn't thought about doing that. Yeah, I'm not sure. That might work. Okay, so it looks like that is working now. So and that was kind of anticlimactic. I guess we passed all of the tests. But that's I mean, all of these tests are basically testing the same thing. Just does this many-to-many relationship exist? So we could play around with this too. So let's try playing around. So I'm going to add we'll go into the shell. So Python .py. I think this is going to blow up. And then I'll import, so from IMDB. Yeah, so this is not going to work because there's some issue with this. So I'm going to exit out of here. And I'm going to uninstall IPython. And then I'm going to run the shell command again. So it'll use the default shell, which should work. So so if you want to do stuff, play around in the shell, you have to import. So if we want to use our models here, we have to import them. So from moviedb.models, import actor, movie, role. Okay, and we can create a movie equals there's a couple ways to create something. So objects dot and then let's do create an actor. And then let's create a role. This might not work. Yeah. So before we do that, we're gonna have to let's associate an actor with the movie. So so move one dot let's see what we get here. So again, so the movie, the actors that belong to a movie, we can access that here, movie1.actors. So we want .actors.add, and then we will add an actor. Okay, so we're gonna have to do that on the role. So role. So actor is actor 1 or act 1. And movie is move 1. ID movie role. Let's see. Let's just do it this way. So role, and that will be equals okay, and then we'll save role one.save. Yeah, that's not working. Maybe it just has to be ID. Does anyone see anything obvious here?
Would it not just be actor and movie instead of actor and movie ID?
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. And if I tried just making this an ID, I think it should actually pass in the thing itself. Yeah. So we do have act 1 and move 1. Let me see here. Well, let's look at the documentation real quick. So many-to-many relationships. So you can save something. So we're saving a publication. So let's try. Well, this should not be happening. If anyone has any ideas, if I'm missing anything.
Maybe look at how the tests are set up, because the tests kind of make.
Yeah, we're actually outside of the tests, and the way that the test is doing it a little bit different. It's based on a slightly different thing. If we could, yeah, I guess we could try created and then movie and actor. Yeah, I mean, to me, that looks like it's doing the same thing.
Chad, I think you might need to save the role first if you have not.
Yeah, so when I can, I like here, for example, I think this is following the same logic here. So I have an instance of role and I have an actor, keyword arguments. That's an instance of an actor and then an instance of a movie. But then when I try to save it, I get this error. So actually, it could be, I don't think I deleted my database. So I redid the migrations. Let me just try that. Drop DB, IMDB. And we'll go back into the shell. Have to import, so actor, movie, role. It's a little tedious. Do this. Save it. Create a movie. And then a role. So that looks right. Okay, so I think I just hadn't, my database was still like it was, so sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, so that's one issue when you are modifying the migrations just in the kind of, in that unapproved manner, is that your database isn't in sync with them necessarily. Okay. So save, and now if I want to run a query, so let's look at, if I want to get, I only have one of each, but let's just say to get all. So I can get all the actors and I get that, I can get all the roles. Okay, but then what if I want to get all of the actors in a movie? So I can look at a particular movie. So move one dot actors. Okay. Move one dot actors. And now I have access to an actor. So I started with from a movie, and I was able to get an actor. In fact, all of the actors. This happens to only be one, but you can see this is a query set, so there would be multiple values here. Okay, and we can do the same thing for a role. You get all the actors in a so actor. I'm going to get all act one dot movies. So again, it's easy to see the relationship here because it's explicit. So from I can get movie dot actors, but act one dot movies also works because of that many to many relationship, even though it's not visible in the table. So that backwards relationship also works. Okay. So act. Are there any questions?
Yeah, so like the actor.movies is going to return the list of movies, and movie.actor is going to return the list of actors.
Yeah. So
Okay.
movie.actors, which is explicitly kind of obvious on our table, but because we're using this related name, when we try to get, actor.movies, that relationship will work. If we didn't specify this, Django would give us a built-in name, which is like the table name _ set, I believe.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so that's the basics, and we don't have anything on this role, but if we added like a character or something here, you would also be able to get all of an actor's characters and things like that. Okay, so sorry about the hiccup with the database, but that's how it goes. So let me stop sharing.